Welcome back to VADA Live. I'm your host, Dan Carrigan. Today, we are joined by Emily Marlow Beck, who is president of Marlow Motor Company in Front Royal and Virginia's 2026 Time Dealer of the Year. Emily has been recognized nationally for leadership, community service, and innovative culture she has built at her dealership. Emily, welcome to VADA Live.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Appreciate you taking time and allowing us to congratulate you on being named Virginia's Time Dealer of the Year. I have to ask, what was your first reaction when you learned the news?
Well, it's a little funny. My first reaction was shock. I may have even conveyed that to Don Hall. We're a smaller dealer, and they're just amazing dealers all over the Commonwealth doing amazing things. So I was a little, you're just great company. And so my initial reaction was shock, and I definitely conveyed that to Don. But my second reaction was my father passed about a year ago, and just a little bit of, man, I wish Dad were here. And so those were the two reactions I had within the first 5 minutes of getting the news is, man, I wish my dad were here to share this with me.
Part of this segment is learning about you, Emily, and your dealership experience to help others. Let's, if you don't mind, go there with your family. What was it like to come up in the dealership world and having your dad in the business as well? It
was not easy. For him, like, his love language was hard work, and there was no spoiling, and there was no, it was very much, he wasn't going to ask someone else's kid to do something that he wasn't going to ask me to do. And if there was a gross, disgusting job in the dealership, like, he was going to find it, and he was going to make a point to see me do it so that he could see everyone else seeing me do it. And it's just a lot of character building, and that really continued our entire lives. I mean, obviously, as I got older, it was a little bit different, but he was definitely building character with every step. And within those that are in a dealership family too, having that perhaps nodding while they're listening and watching this with a similar experience, anything you want to share with them, or perhaps any words of wisdom to those that are in the process of that right now? Geez, I mean, I just think that there's a recognition that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And just, I've always thought of it like the parable of the talents. Like, you want to be able to do really a great job with what you've been given. And I look back on certain times when my dad could have bailed me out, or he could have saved me, or he could have made things easy for me. And he was doing a really good doing me a really good favor. I laugh. I tell this story sometimes. I lost coming out of law school. I had a great job lined up, and I lost my job before I even started because of the corporate, stuff. And I remember calling home to Dad with a lot of law school debt and a lot of, looking for advice. And he was like, well, welcome to the corporate world. Like, go see what you can do. If you can get yourself out of this, you can get yourself out of anything. And he really did me a favor, because as things came up later, and both my legal career or my dealership career, I knew that I had to figure it out. Like, and I would have to just he prepared me to be able to dig deep during hard times. Your career path is unique, Emily. You mentioned being an attorney, but you specialize in the automotive compliance end of things, dealer principal. How does your background really shape how you lead today? I think the best thing, people assume it means that I'm a real stickler for the laws, and I am. I mean, let there be no doubt. Everyone kind of understands where I stand on that stuff. But the biggest thing is, if you're in a corporate law firm environment, you learn how to ask for help. You learn who the smart people are. You learn how to be collaborative. It's not unusual to walk down the hall in a law firm and say, hey, look over my shoulder on this. I think I'm missing. Or what do you see that I don't see? Or help me think through this. And so I think that in my dealership, I like that same culture to carry over, where people can say, hey, I need a little help on this, or I'm stuck, or help me think through this. And I think that sometimes we tend to not want to tell people when we need help or when we need, but it just creates a more collaborative environment where people feel like asking for help or asking someone to give them a second view or look over their shoulder or tell them what they think. That's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And I think that's one of the biggest things that carries over.
Any tips to get there where I think many could agree the collaboration is very well intended, is a great strategy, but maybe difficult to play out in the day to day for a number of reasons? Any words of advice to that end, and especially getting it to stick
Just
long
lead
term?
by example. Lead by example. I think that if you ask people and say, can you explain this to me or help me or tell me what you think, they're going to feel more comfortable doing it. And also you have to, my old law partner used to say, you share the credit and you hog the blame, which means that, you don't feel like you need to hog the credit, share the credit. And when something goes wrong, take responsibility for it and fix it. And I think that part of that is when someone makes a mistake, we got to coach, we got to teach. But if you don't handle it that way, then people are afraid and they'll hide mistakes from you. And that's not what you want. You want to be the first one to know when something's wrong. You want them to come to you and say, I messed up. And you've got to build that trust with them to have that happen.
You're the first woman from Virginia to receive the honor that would be the Time Dealer of the Year in more than 25 years. What does that milestone represent to you?
It's funny, when I was younger and I used to go to the NADA conventions, and this is when, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, but a lot of years ago. And I would walk and I would look at all the pictures of the nominees, and you would see maybe one woman here, one woman there, but there really weren't many. I think the lack of mentors is something that I really, it's been hard because I've had female mentors in the legal space, and I've had male mentors in the automotive space, but I haven't really had many female mentors in the automotive space. And I think that I'm hoping that other women will see people like me and other women leaders. There's lots of great ones now, and say, oh, I can do that too. There's a place for me there. There's room for me there. I can be successful in that environment, even if I act this way or do this way or have these priorities.
Well, speaking of NADA, I know you will be there. It's on your calendar again this year in Las Vegas. You're taking to the stage. How are you going to do so? What are you excited about in representing Virginia's dealers?
It's all still kind of sinking in. I think that for me, just to be in the company of such amazing people who are so respected in their states, and to just be in that great company is an honor. And it's just something that I'm going to just relish while I'm there, and just be grateful for the opportunity to be there.
One thing I wanted to ask about, Emily, is the CARES committee you started, and it's become really core at your company. How is that playing out? What is it? And really, how has that changed things for your business? Sure.
Well, the CARES committee was kind of a product of what we had done earlier, which was our 75 acts of kindness, which we had done in 22, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But what we have is representatives from different departments in the dealerships getting together, coming up with ways to not only celebrate ourselves internally, but also to plug in with the community, to find ways to volunteer, to do things. And because it's employee-led, we're really able to see what the heart of our employees can be and help support them. I find if you don't do something like that, or at least we haven't done that, dealers, we write checks and we sponsor things, and it's super important, and I'm glad we're doing it, and we need to continue doing it. But that doesn't have the cultural effect of modeling servanthood or modeling kindness or modeling just that sort of culture that we're trying to build. There's a disconnect between our team and what's really going on. A funny story, one time when one of our CARES committee things, we were out harvesting vegetables that would go from a community garden into it's like a CCAP type of thing where people could get the vegetables. And I'm out there, and there was a new employee who I really hadn't connected with yet. And he was out there, and we were digging. And eventually he says, well, where do you work? What do you do? And I told him who I was. We hadn't met. And later in the day, one of the employees was saying, he was telling everyone, she was dirty. She had mud. She was in there pulling weeds. And I think there's an opportunity to model servanthood when we get out there and get our hands dirty and empower our team to tell us and guide us into what they care about.
Thank you for sharing, Emily. It's a great tangible example. Is there any work that goes just behind the scenes into getting something like that off the ground, even clearing time on your calendar to be out in the community for a day, anything for leaders to learn from and really say, okay, we're committed to this. How do you find the time? How do you prioritize it?
I think it has to be something that we just make. It has to be a priority. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's just you're going to prioritize it or you're not, and your team will know if you prioritize it or not, and they'll see whether you prioritize it or not. And so, being a smaller store, we live in the communities where we serve. And so I know that when I'm helping a neighbor, I may be helping a customer. There's so much just commonality in that way. And so I know that I'm going to likely see my customer in the bread aisle at Walmart on Saturday, and everyone's got to feel really good about the type of community we're building together. And that's just a way that we're able to do that.
Does that influence the sales floor at all and interactions with your team?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're modeling kindness and humility and trying to be problem solvers, I mean, they know that the way we do business has to be a certain way because we live in the community that we serve. There's no hiding. We're all going to see each other again. And so we have to really work hard to protect that relationship.
Is there something in speaking to dealerships of all shapes and sizes, and in part in our audience too, something dealerships with a number of rooftops can learn from that approach? Anything you think that can cascade? Do you think it should always be that community focus?
I think there's an opportunity for that in the respective communities, and I think it needs to be led by the respective communities. And we do have two other stores, and each store has a cares committee. So I think that it needs to be rooted in that community where the dealership is, because that's the community where people live and where they serve, and the employees need to know they work for a place that matters and that values them, and that they want to feel like their work is important, and that who they work for cares about the same things that they care about.
You had mentioned community impact, understand degrees at work to 75 acts of kindness. What are those, and really why do they play such a huge role with your team?
Are the 75 acts, is that what you're asking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the hardest thing I have ever done, probably. For our 75th anniversary a few years ago, we committed to performing 75 acts of kindness in 25 days. And now you do the math, that's a lot. And I thought that it would be little small things, but it just really, the employees were coming to me saying, hey, I care about this, or I care about this. And so we were feeding homeless people. We were landscaping rescue missions. We were working at, we were giving blood. We were painting recovery homes. And we tried to create things that, your technicians are obviously going to be really their time is how they feed their families. So we tried to create opportunities where it would be easy. We got a bunch of popsicles and walked over to the park and passed out popsicles to kids. Little things where we could have a big impact and a small impact. If I were to try to list all the 75 things, I would forget, some of my favorites. But what was interesting to me is how many employees would come up to me and say, hey, this particular cause is important to me. I learned a lot about my team, and it just felt a lot. I think that one day when this was going on, I pulled up into the dealership, and we were like, there was a vehicle shortage at that time, if you remember. And there were less cars than there were earlier that day. And I asked one of the managers, I said, did we move the cars to mow? And he said, no, there's a stop sale. We had to move them all to the back. And I remember finding one of my salespeople at that time, because I was worried about where's their head going to be? Like, where are they going to be freaking out? And I said, how are you doing? How are you holding up? And she says, well, I wish I had more to sell. She says, but I spent the morning loading food at CCAP, and I realized I have food in my house. I have food in my refrigerator. I'm going to be okay. I want more cars to sell, but I'm going to be okay. And I realized that probably that initiative was what was needed at that time. for that particular that purpose. I was a little worried at that time. Am I doing the right thing? But I think it was the right message to just really ground us and give an idea of what the big picture is.
Appreciate you sharing those examples, Emily. We love examples and stories at VADA Live. To your experience, and you've been involved, a voice of VADA for more than a decade, including your time as chair from 2021 to 2022. How has that experience helped? And any words to somebody who may be interested in getting involved at the association level, maybe perhaps something as official as a position, or even just showing up to dealer day on the Hill?
Well, I think one thing, anytime you can be around really smart people, it's just going to make you better. And I think the opportunity to be around really smart people makes you better. But also, sometimes we get so into our day-to-day and our, month end and, getting things done that it really is a great opportunity to take a step back, look at the big picture, to have a long view. And if you've been around for over 70 years like we have, you really have a long view of things. And it's worth protecting and it's worth fighting for. But you just have to kind of get in that game. I would encourage anyone who either has the generational background like I do, or who wants to have a generational background in the future, to take that seriously and get in and do what they can to help protect it.
Operations in a dealership, to say they're evolving rapidly may be an understatement. And there are too many things to even talk about and dive into, everything from EV adoption, technology, AI, consumer expectations, pricing. It just, as far as looking to next steps and positioning, anything that's top of mind for you as a leader for Marlow Motor Company for the future and future-proofing the business?
I think that if anybody's not talking about AI right now, that's the thing that everyone's talking about. So of course that is, a lot of these things are changing just as quickly as we may be talking about them today. And by the time this publishes, or someone watches it, the issue may be something else. But that's certainly the issue. And also just how people are changing, how families are changing. How can we support and build a really good team and meet the needs of the changing work environment and employees' needs. I think those are the things that we spend a lot of time talking about.
And a friendly reminder to our listeners and viewers that we do have a special series on AI on VADA Live with multiple episodes. Thank you for mentioning that, Emily, as far as the AI space, its importance and work to keep that top of mind for dealerships. As maybe one final question, any advice to fellow dealers, especially the next generation, in navigating those challenges? Just noting your background, being a family business, having the attorney side of things, anything you share or want to get out there for those who may be looking to grow their business, that next gen side of things, and just navigating an uncertain world.
Yeah, I think that if I were to give advice to someone, if I were to give advice to myself several years ago, I would have said to, first of all, find yourself smart people. Like, just surround yourself with smart people. They will make you better. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. So find smart people. I think, too, you have to learn how to lead yourself first. If you're going to lead a team, you have to lead yourself first. And that may be, spiritually or your family or whatever. That's got to be the priority, because if you can't take care of yourself, you're going to have a hard time having the vision and taking care of other people. And maybe just coming off the heels of my father passing, I've thought a lot about legacy and what legacy means. And I think that if I were to tell someone who's a couple decades younger than I am about if they wanted to build a legacy, I would tell them that a legacy isn't something you build by what you accomplish. A legacy is something you build by what you help other people accomplish, by the way you live your life. And so if you build your business that way, and if you build your life that way, I think you're going to end up in a good place. That may look different to every person depending on their situation, but I think that you're going to be proud of what you have been able to do, regardless of all these things that are coming and coming at us. So I think that would be the advice I would give. I know that doesn't touch on the nuts and bolts in the operations, but maybe that's a little more high level. But those are the things that I think about.
No, it was perfect, Emily, and thank you. And actually made me think of just one other question. When you start thinking about change, you do a lot of planning, but sometimes things just happen. And that's part of your experience as well. Anything from that side too, of just navigating perhaps uncertainty or changes that are occurring overnight that you have to react to?
I tell people we think it's ready, set, go, but usually it's go, set, ready. And once you understand that, it's just a little bit more manageable. And most of the biggest pivotal things that have happened in my career weren't things that I planned for. They weren't things that I was expecting. I mean, there were things that, losing my law career or coming home and my dad having a heart attack when I had been back in the business for just, a month or so. I didn't plan for any of those things, but you just have to be ready to pivot and to go. And as soon as you understand that's part of the job, that's part of what you're here for, it just gets a little bit more, it just gets a little bit more manageable.
Emily, thank you for joining us on VADA Live. You've been hearing from Emily Marlow Beck, who's president of Marlow Motor Company and Virginia's 2026 Time Dealer of the Year. Thank you for watching VADA Live. I am Dan Carrigan, and we will see you next time.